Let me know if you're sick and tired of men like this. One day they appear, the next day they disappear. One day they commit, the next day they want to admit. One day they're sweet, the next day they're full of deceit. Do you want to be able to hack their minds without going straight to hell so that you can make and keep them thinking of you non-stop? I know you secretly fantasize about that, don't lie to me. It's human nature to want to have that power over someone. If you're watching this, most likely you want to be more prioritized, valued, and desired by your partner more, and you want to know how to do that more efficiently. Well, Father Alex is here, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to show you how to get them thinking about you from the first date all the way to the first year of your relationship. But there's a warning. If you have a history of cheating, I highly recommend you not apply this video because they're gonna think you're up to some shit again. So sit your butt down and get ready, because today we're going to talk about how to hack their minds. Let's begin with the video. Interested in working with me one-on-one so I could teach you guys how to apply the strategies. You guys can tell me about your situation and I could show you guys how to apply it into your life. Click on the description down below where it says work with me one-on-one and you guys can book a call with me today and talk to me about your situation. Let's continue. I'm gonna structure this video and we're gonna address two different types of people. One, people who are in relationships and people who are single or people who are kind of dating, right? This video will apply in all of those situations, right? For example, right, in the beginning, what gets people to think about you in the beginning is uncertainty and mystery because they don't know you, right? And they don't know whether or not you really like them. If you pay attention, knowing that somebody likes you feels like going to another level, and that's actually a real true thing. So the challenge between the first dating stages is uncertainty and not knowing what they think about you, right? And also it's sexual fantasies and those things are the thoughts in the beginning. First of all, understand that your thoughts revolve around the things that you value. It's just that simple. And there are different ways you could increase your value as a person without having to change anything about you. But if the person is not thinking about you, it's simply because they don't value you. And they don't value you because of one, generally speaking, you're not their type, or two, you're doing something to fuck up your value. Getting someone to think about you nonstop is not about manipulating them, but about giving them a lasting experience. And how do you give that? Well, first of all, you don't need to do anything outside of paying attention to give them a lasting experience. All you gotta do is just be there and don't be creepy. The person's brain creates all of the fantasies, all of the imagination that you want, so that when you're not there, they think about you. Let their imagination do the dirty work for you. All you gotta do is match their energy. If they're showing a lot of interest, you show interest, but if they're showing this interest here, you show this interest here. You just match their energy. And if you could just do that, then you're able to apply the things that we're gonna be talking about in this video. The reason why is this, because when people imagine you, when you're not, when the way that people think about you when you're just dating and not in a relationship, it's usually sexual a lot of the times. It's usually revolving around uncertainty. What do you think about me? Do you like me? And so you could use that as leverage. But when you're dating people, you have to make sure to do is not bombard them with calls, with attention. Right? In the beginning, if you want them to think about you nonstop and keep thinking about you in the future, you cannot bombard them. You have to let them do most of the work. Most of the seeking attention has to come from their part. Uncertainty in the beginning is your friend. And the key fundamental principle behind making somebody think of you nonstop is people's thoughts revolve around the things that they value. And also they revolve around two other aspects. One, pleasure, right? Which is the things that you value. And two, aversion. A desire to avoid this or that, meaning desire to avoid conflict with you, a desire to avoid losing you, a desire to lose you to someone else. You want to avoid a certain experience. So whatever causes a desire to avoid an experience, they're gonna think about you. So if you start acting cold, for example, right, a little cold, not too cold, but enough for them to tell a few days later, that will create a desire that they says, okay, I want to avoid them. I want to avoid losing them. So then all of a sudden, their thoughts revolve around you. It's like, for example, me, right? I tend to be the type of, I used to, not anymore, thank God. I used to be the type of person that if my finger hurt, I think I got hand cancer. Right? I swear to God. I did not know I had that problem, right? But anytime something hurted, right? Like you had a pain here and it didn't go away instantly, my mind would just gravitate towards this. I wouldn't be able to think about it, right? And that's kind of similar to that. Is that if you notice the moments of tension in life that take up most of your attention, that stresses you out, which means like it's taking up a lot of your energy, are things that are problems, are things that you don't know about. right? So conflict causes people to think about you when you're in a relationship, because sometimes when you're just dating people, some people may not love you enough to deal with the conflict. Get what I'm saying? Conflict resolution, spending time together, these are the things that will cause them to think of you nonstop. In the beginning, connection, a deep love for that person is not gonna do that. And if you try to do that because you just got out of a relationship, you're gonna creep them the hell out. And then you're gonna tell people you watch my channel, and then we're all gonna look bad. Sorry. Now, if you're in a relationship with them, the things that will cause you to think about them is appreciation, them feeling like you actually appreciate them through small gestures, a sense of understanding their nature, understanding who they are, and you could kind of tell these things because of the little things you do. For example, I was watching a documentary of a lawyer, and he was telling the story of a woman who was getting a divorce, and he asked her, hey, what was the moment when you realized that you're getting a divorce? And she told him that he always left crackers in the refrigerator for me, and every morning I would go there and the crackers and the cream was there. He never missed a day in 10 years. The day I noticed he stopped doing that, as small of a gesture as that is, that's when I realized that this marriage was about to end. And it's kind of similar to that, where they have a sense of understanding. You understand them so much that it makes them feel like they're back with their parents, right? It makes them the attention to detail that your parents give you causes you to fall in love with them more. Robert Greene, let them know about this.
Lofty words and grand gestures can be suspicious. Why are you trying so hard to please? The details of a seduction, the subtle gestures, the offhand things you do, are often more charming and revealing. You must learn to distract your victims with a myriad of pleasant little rituals, thoughtful gifts tailored just for them, clothes and adornments designed to please them, gestures that show the time and attention you are paying them. All of their senses are engaged in the details you orchestrate. Create spectacles to dazzle their eyes. Mesmerized by what they see, they will not notice what you are really up to. Learn to suggest the proper feelings and moods through details.
So anytime somebody pays that type of attention to you, then you're gonna think about them. So as you can see, the quality of thoughts when you're in love with someone is not the same as the first one, right? The sex even diminishes. So it's a sense of understanding, a sense of connection, and also conflict and the resolution of it. Spending time together, and those are the things that will create the thoughts when you're not there. So the strategy for single people and people who are in a relationship is gonna be a little different, but I'm gonna address it in this video. But for this to work, no matter what stage you are, do not bombard them, especially in the beginning. Do not bombard them with desire for your attention, right? But this is different. Once they fall in love with you, then you do want to be around them more, right? So in the beginning, your absence will create the thoughts, but when you're with them, it's actually your presence with subtle and temporary and shorter absences that creates the thought. So that's why in a relationship, playing these types of games and not communicating will actually hurt it, right? Well, took you there is not what's gonna keep you there. It's like an addict, right? For example, I used to work at a drug rehab in Philadelphia many years ago, and one of the things that when you learn about that is that what gets people to do drugs and keep doing the drugs is the high that it gives you, which is very similar to this, right? Where what gets people to go out with you is the initial newness, but what keeps them addicted to it is once they acclimate to the drug and then their bodies stop getting them high. But that acclimation that you tend to feel is very similar to what happens when you're in a long-term relationship, where they stop getting you high, but you have a physical addiction to them. You rely on them, but you're used to them. You know, it's like going to a new city versus being back in your city, right? The new city gives you excitement, but being here gives you comfort, right? So that comfort is the body addiction, right? So it's the comfort, the routine that will keep them thinking about you. It's a routine, and it's completely different than when you're dating someone, which is the unpredictability is what gives you that. Now you need a little routine. You need to spend time with them for them to love you, right? But it's the unpredictability. But then it gets reversed, where it's the routine with a little bit of unpredictability. Get what I'm saying? So it's a little different, and that's why you got to be careful when you apply these strategies. Life will do the dirty work for you. So you have to have a life, because when you don't have a life, you make all of the mistakes that I tell people not to do. Every mistake you're gonna make that will cause people to not think of you, that will cause people to not be obsessed with you, you will commit when you have a lifeless life. You will do everything wrong. As soon as you're busy, everything you do will be correct. Just that simple. You're not gonna have time to respond to them. You're not gonna have time to be there all the time. Sometimes you're gonna cancel some meetups. Life has a tendency to be unpredictable and frustrating. If you just go with the flow of life, you'll do everything that we're talking about in this video. Literally everything. Because usually the most attractive people are the busiest people. Why fake being busy? Be busy so that you get, one, actually build your life as you're busy, and two, get the effects of this strategy. The natural chaos of life will do all the dirty work for you. And this applies for both relationship and for single people. Simply because if you're in a relationship, being around them all the time, don't get me wrong, it works for some people, but generally speaking, it's just not good. People will find you more attractive when you're not around and you return. It's just that simple. Which comes into the next point, right? If you don't want to have a life, then just apply this. Consciously use presence and absence. Now, in the beginning, don't use too much presence, right? When you're in a relationship, don't use too much absence. You get what I'm coming from? So in the beginning, what you want to do is see them once or twice a week, max, right? And if you want, cancel once every 4 or 5 dates. Yeah, but generally speaking, if you're busy, you're gonna cancel some shit cause shit shows up. But if you don't have a life, right, then manufacture that shit, right? Now, when you're in a relationship with them, the moments of absence is doing things that they are not privy to do. For example, going out with my guy friends and not inviting my girl, right? Or you going out doing that salsa class that you paid for without them, or you seeing your parents and leaving them for the weekend, right? The consistency, the patience. Little moments of absence to feel incredible and feel deep, right? And it'll create a longing for you, because when you're not there, the brain will naturally want to recreate you in its mind. It's like, if I can't see you, I'll project you in my mind, right? And they'll start to think and fantasize about, you know what, Robert Greene.
Napoleon had this idea to the effect of, if I appear every day at the theater in Paris, people don't respect me. Oh, the king is the emperor's there. Okay. But if I only show up at the theater once a month, it becomes an event. And people start talking about me and thinking about me. So use absence sometimes, because we have this wrong impression that presence, being constantly present, is what makes somebody kind of fall in love and want us. But actually, it's a step of absence that creates that. If in like a love situation, if you don't return the phone call right away or the text, and a day goes by, they start to think about you. They start to wonder about themselves. And in that process of thinking about you, they start fantasizing and wondering. And that's the powerful position that you have if you use absence.
Now, this one might sound manipulative, and I get it, but it's not. It's not toxic. I swear to you, man. And that's using weakness.
Don't be afraid to show people your flaws. When people are weak, it makes others lower their guards.
You're weak. By nature, you have weaknesses. We need each other. And letting people know and having people understand that we need them is very important. And when we talk about using weakness, we're not talking about how, like, what do you call that? What's that movie? The movie with Adam Sandler, right? He wanted to play football. And his mom, every time he wanted to play football, his mom would act like she was having a headache. Okay, she was, I think you might call that gaslighting. We're not talking about that. That's evil, and that's using your weakness as a weapon. We're talking about using a weakness as a way to unite people. Why? Because naturally, sometimes you get depressed, but you don't tell people. Sometimes you're sad, but you hold it in. Sometimes you need somebody to help you with something, but you don't say nothing, right? And so because of that, you might think it's a burden, but what I'm trying to tell you is that be okay with telling people your weaknesses. Not too soon, right? But be okay with asking for help. Be okay with telling people that you feel depressed sometimes. Be okay with telling people the bad things that happen in your life, right? Not as a way to manipulate them, but as a way to be healthy, to release those things, to talk it out. The secondary effect that it has is that it makes people sympathetic. It makes people want to help you. It makes people want to be there for you. But when you show so much competence, when you show too much independence, I'm a boss bitch, or I don't need no woman, you lose points. to humanize yourself. It's like a celebrity. When we watch a celebrity that has everything and we see them cry because maybe they're going out of drug rehab, or maybe they lost a cat, they lost a mom and dad. If you pay attention to how you react to them, you actually like them more. And so this section is not about telling you guys to tell people that you're weak as a way to manipulate them. Come here. I'm more so telling you to be okay with showing those weaknesses. It's not going to hurt you. It's actually going to endear you in their minds. Now, there's a warning in this one, right? This is the warning. If you're known as somebody who always cries, who always complains, who's always playing the victim, this does not work for you. No, this does not work. Because if you're known for somebody who's always playing the victim, first of all, you're doing something wrong. Right? And second of all, you just might need to reassess yourself, because that's not the strategy that I want you guys to be using. And if you're using weakness as a weapon to control and manipulate people, don't tell people you watch my channel. Tell them you watch Satan's channel. The next one is criticism. Now this one, you got to be careful, right? You cannot use this on someone that you don't know, or you barely been going out with them, simply because you don't know them, to give them this type of feedback. They have to believe you. What? You don't believe me? Robert Greene? Let them know.
The number of women and of men who fell under Lawrence's spell is astonishing, given how unpleasant he could be.
Listen to this.
In almost every case, the relationship began in friendship, with frank talks, exchanges of confidences, a spiritual bond.
Nothing wrong.
Then, invariably, he would suddenly turn against them, voicing harsh personal criticisms. He would know them well by that time, and the criticisms were often quite accurate and hit a nerve. This would inevitably trigger confusion in his victims and a sense of anxiety, a feeling that something was wrong with them. Jolted out of their usual sense of normality, they would feel divided inside. With half of their minds, they wondered why he was doing this and felt he was unfair. With the other half, they believed it was all true. Then, in those moments of self-doubt, they would get a letter or a visit from him in which he was his old charming self. Now they saw him differently. Now they were weak and vulnerable, in need of something, and he would seem so strong. Now he drew them to him. Feelings of friendship turning into affection.
So this one might sound manipulative, but it's actually a normal function of human nature. That this is a normal function of someone who's able to be mad at someone and get over it quickly. A sign of strong character. What do I mean by that? You criticize somebody based on something true in their character, and you can only do this, like I said, after a while of going out with them, a few weeks, month, and you give them a criticism, right? You're harsh, like you're like, yo, like you're always late. Like, why are you always late? You let them know that you're not happy, and you act annoyed. But the key is the next day, act like nothing happened. And this is what I said. A healthy person gets mad at you, gets frustrated with you, and then the next day they're okay, they're cool with you and hold the grudges. So the way that this criticism works is that you criticize someone based on something they know is wrong. Maybe they're always late, for example, right? Or maybe they stink, okay? Or maybe one girl had a fucking breath stunk, right? I never told her breath stunk. She was just too hot. But breath stunk, right? And I mean, God, I hope somebody told her breath stink, right? No, I don't think anyone told her like she was hot. Oh my God, that was the cannibal girl. I gotta make some connections, anyways. So I never told her, but I could promise you, if I would have told her, I was like, look, man, your breath stinks, man. You gotta do something about that. I don't know how that would have gone. But if it's based on something you know is true, right? This is honestly a way to test their character. But even though you're testing their character, because you can see like how do they react to real criticism that's based on something they know is true, right? But also, once you criticize them, they're gonna think about you. They're gonna feel awkward. They're gonna and they're gonna feel a little ashamed. But if you're nice the next day, you're accommodating. You hug them because you know they felt awkward. You hug them, be like, hey, how are you doing, right? The reconciliation, the sensation that they went from, oh my God, are they really that mad? Oh my God, what's going on? And then the next day you're acting normal. They're gonna think about you. It's just natural. If you're able to inflict pain, if you're able to inflict pleasure, right? They're having fun. They love being around you. But now, since they know you know them a lot, now the criticism is based on somebody that knows you inflicted pain. Now you're the source of pain and source of pleasure. Their thoughts are going to revolve around you. Why? Like I said in the beginning, your thoughts revolve around the things that causes you pain and the things that causes you pleasure. Right? Now, don't be going out here like Oprah, you got a criticism. Relax, okay? What I'm trying to tell you is that you're going to find flaws in this person. And a lot of people, when they see flaws, like I did with that girl, with the cannibal girl, I didn't tell her, hey, like your breath stinks, right? Because she was hot. But me, I let my awkwardness, my insecurities, not tell her the truth. And I can promise you, maybe it would have, done more, but truth is I didn't want anything from it. But that's just an example of how I saw a criticism that was true and I withheld it. You do that a lot too. Yeah. You do that a lot too. And you do that because you don't want to feel awkward. This is why narcissists, psychopath, crazy motherfuckers, that why they do so well, because they sort of do this naturally, right? They sort of love criticizing. And a lot of and if you're somebody who has low self-esteem and somebody talks to you that way, it's gonna affect you. Now, this one is my favorite one. Okay, I don't do this, but it's my favorite one because of how mind-blowing it actually is. Spiritualizing your relationship. Okay, put it this way: imagine you meet someone and you guys met. It was a chance encounter. Now imagine you meet someone, but it was the universe that brought you guys together. You labeling and letting people and emphasizing how improbable it was and how divine that perhaps this meeting was causes people to label, like, when you label an email, it labels this relationship as a more of a spiritual relationship. Another example, and this is something that I find really fascinating. I was reading how cult leaders, when they have sex with the people who they're abusing, the female followers report that the sex is more pleasurable. You want to know why? Because it's not just sex; it's spiritual. It's a ritual. You need to bang me so that I could purify your soul. When they do it with the person, that experience is not. Now you're not. You know how people say meaningless sex. The most meaningful sex is fucking religious sex, right? Spiritual, divine by God, a type of sex. Okay, and what the women report, they report feeling more pleasure. Now, unfortunately for them, they're being abused, right? They're being lied to, and a lot of times they wake up from it a few years later and realize what happened. But in the moment, it feels pleasurable. Why? Because you poeticized it. You gave it a spiritual lure to it, right? So that's
Religion is the most seductive system that mankind has created. Pleasure is the bait that you use to lure a person into your web. Lure the victim deep into your web with spirituality, making physical pleasure seem sublime and transcendent. Spirituality will disguise your manipulations, suggesting that your relationship is timeless and creating a space for ecstasy in the victim's mind. Remember that seduction is a mental process, and nothing is more mentally intoxicating than religion, spirituality.
So that's why emphasizing the spiritual, saying how, or even doing spiritual things with them, meditating with them, and spiritualizing your relationship through having spiritual rituals. It could be Christian, doesn't matter, right? When they think of you, they're gonna think of you in an order of greater magnitude. It's not just a relationship now. You're not just you're not just some person. You're my twin flame. You're my soulmate. You're the person I saw you in my past life. You were there, right? And that type of stuff. It enhances the experience. So when you're not around them, when they think of you, it's going to be charged. You want to know what charges thoughts more than sex? Spirituality, the divine. I met someone who we are spiritually connected. And even if they don't really like you, this is why I find this so fascinating. Even if they don't find you physically attractive, for example, the spiritual attraction will draw them to you. Other ways that you could do that is you don't have to make it spiritual. You could just emphasize the chance encounter, how we met. When I met you, I was literally not gonna come to Austin, Texas, and I missed my flight, and somehow I landed at this bar because I went to the wrong bar, and here the chances of that. Emphasizing that, for example, gives a relationship a slightly higher type of mindset, or they'll think of you a little bit different, right? It gives you more power. It gives your presence in their minds more power. So when they think about you, they're not just thinking about your positive traits. The spiritual lore will give your traits more magnitude. It'll give it more mental, psychological salience, which means importance. And that's why you see a lot of these cult leaders tell their members to kill themselves or to do this because they're doing it because it's of a spiritual purpose, right? And usually people who are religious, spiritual, or even in cults, they usually think about the cult leader a lot, right? And the reason why is because they have a halo of spirituality that the brain naturally thinks about that a lot because of fear of death, fear of the unknown. So the thought of you is going to create comfort. It's going to create a sense of wanting to be around you, right? Now, again, you don't have to deify yourself. Just have spiritual things with the person. An example is meditating before doing the Lord's work, right? Or even doing it with them, but saying how and you both agreeing, right? How this is for God. Look, man, I know it sounds crazy, but this is honestly, I don't even know why I'm teaching this part on YouTube. I'm not even gonna lie. If I keep this up, it's because I kept it up. But this is honestly true. But the problem, this is so powerful. It's so powerful that the people who have sex with someone under this guise, even though it's not true, under this guise, the person who told them that can be liable for SA. Like, you know, like that like where women come back and say, hey, many years ago I was in this cult and they told me this and I banged them because I thought he was Jesus. It's so powerful that people, you could like go in jail for that. That's not because it's so powerful, right? And you might say that is so dumb. Why do they believe it's Jesus? Well, think about it. Usually you get into the spiritual or religion when you're at your low moment in life, when you're sad and depressed, right? So this strategy that I'm teaching you, as evil as it is, works a lot when somebody's depressed or needing some kind of spiritual support. I'm telling you. And they prey on people like that, man. It's crazy, man. The difference is that we're not calling ourselves God. We're just saying, you're just emphasizing the spiritual. Or if you have a spiritual habit of meditating, having them meditate with you, right? Now the relationship with you is not just a relationship between me and you. Now we have a spiritual energy that revolves us, and it gives. And so when they think about you, the thoughts are more intense. They're more beautiful. They're more awesome, you know. And these are the ways to get them to think about you. Now, since you like this video, I will highly recommend you guys check out my courses, The Psychological Game of Attraction, which is for women who are single, and Natural Chemistry, which is for women who are in relationships. You guys can either purchase both of them at 50% off, or purchase them individually by clicking on the description down below. And if you can't get enough of that video in my courses, you guys can purchase all of my courses, which is joining the Mindful Attraction University, taught by Professor Alex yourself. You guys can get all of the courses: Natural Chemistry, Psychological Game of Attraction, Nice Girl, which is a course to become more assertive, Emotional Mastery is a course on how to develop and master your emotions, Charisma Blueprint is a course that I created for people who want to develop more charisma, and my latest, The Feminine Woman. You can click in the description down below to purchase one or all of them, and I'll see you guys inside. 30-day money back guarantee. I got you.